Thank you. So, what is healthcare? Because virtually everybody here is connected to health one way or the other. I believe everybody knows what healthcare is. Even if you are not connected to healthcare industry directly, I believe virtually everybody here would have received some form of healthcare at one point or the other. So what is healthcare? It's a service of providing medical care, both preventive and curative. I want us to think a lot about preventive healthcare. Who provides healthcare in Nigeria? All tiers of government, the private sector, and the alternate health practitioners, faith-based practitioners. Sometimes these people might be even more important than those of us who think we are in what we call the orthodox healthcare. So let me break my speech to welcome the subdean, all right, basic clinical science. So thank you for honoring ILUMSA's invitation. She cannot but honor that invitation too. All right. So what are the levels of healthcare in Nigeria and who provides them? Primary healthcare, very important. This is supposed to be under the local government authority. Secondary healthcare, under state government. Tertiary healthcare used to be mainly under the federal government, but now a lot of state governments are also investing in tertiary healthcare. And you can see that even Kwara State, we're talking about KwaSUS, so they too are investing in tertiary healthcare. Quaternary healthcare, that's a rather controversial issue. Some people will say, what's the difference between tertiary and quaternary? Quaternary healthcare is something that is highly subspecialized, and even all over the world, there are very few hospitals that will be involved in quaternary healthcare. In Nigeria, you might say a few private hospitals, or maybe not so many public hospitals are involved in quaternary healthcare. What's the current state of healthcare in Nigeria? Because for us to talk about what next, we need to know where we are. It's not news to hear that the state of healthcare in Nigeria is precarious. Our health indicators continue to be some of the worst in Africa and all over the world. Nigeria is ranked 187 to 190 among 191 countries. Life expectancy is 55.7 years. You all know my date of birth from today. You didn't know it before, but now you know. What that means is, I hope you know that it means I've already lived my life as far as Nigeria is concerned. But I thank God because not only am I alive, my mother is still alive. I know some people in their 90s that are still alive. So don't be, what's the word? Don't fixate so much about that life expectancy. But what it means is that averagely, we are not doing well at all. So when we say life expectancy is 55.7 years, don't say, but I know many people in their 90s. Even one of my father's cousins celebrated his 100th birthday. But you and I know that such people are very few. So generally, we are not doing well. These are some figures that you know. A lot of these figures are not very, current. So if you take something like maternal mortality rate, before we said 512 by 1,000 live births, it became 800 among 1,000 live births. Some people say it's now even above 1,000 per 1,000 live births. What that means is that Nigeria is not the safest country to give birth. Ordinarily, giving birth is supposed to be a very joyous occasion. So you imagine a situation in which a mother dies while trying to bring forth new births. It happens more often than we would like in Nigeria. Talking about even infant mortality rates, neonatal mortality rates, these are rates that many of us are very conversant with. So you can imagine how many children die before their first birthday, before their fifth birthday. So for everybody that we know that we are celebrating their 90th birthday, 100th birthday, think about it. How many of their peers died before they ever got to the age of 1 or even the age of 5? Now, let's come to what we're talking about today, the healthcare sector. Mr. Mansa. Okay, thank you. All right. So, the healthcare sector is underfunded and there aren't enough doctors. This is not news at all. This slide is just to show some of the things they considered. But like I said, a lot of the figures, even on this slide, are not current, which means that the current figures are much worse than this. On this slide, we see 23,640 number of hospitals in Nigeria. When we talk about number of hospitals, you can imagine we're talking about public, private, all right? So for over 200 million people, how far will that go? This slide says we have one doctor to 5,100 people in Nigeria. I don't know what the current figure is, but going by some of the figures we were given by NLA, they were telling us, oh, we have one doctor to 6,000 people. Some will say one doctor to 7,000 people. The thing to always remember about these figures is that, when they make these figures, they just look at total number of doctors divided by total population of Nigeria. They don't consider rural versus urban, different parts of Nigeria. So the thing to always remember is that these doctors that we're talking about, no matter how few or how many, are not evenly distributed in every part of Nigeria. Another important thing I want you to look at is the figure allocated to healthcare. The healthcare budget allocation in 2018 was 3.91%. The highest it has been has not been more than 5%. This is despite the fact that it's supposed to be a minimum of 15%. So this gives us an idea of what is going on in Nigeria. Healthcare in Nigeria has experienced progressive deterioration due to underfunding by successful governments. We hear glorious stories from the 1960s and 1970s. I heard these stories. I wasn't involved in them. Like you had, I was born in 1968. What did I know about healthcare in 1968? Nothing. In the 1970s, I was in primary school. In 1979, I entered secondary school. But we hear a lot about what was happening in UCH, in LUMS, in UNN. Those were the first 3 tertiary health institutions in Nigeria. We had stories about people coming from Saudi Arabia to access healthcare in Nigeria. I can imagine what some of you will think. You think these people are just telling us stories. They are not stories, they are things that actually happened. So what happened? Successful governments just kept paying less attention to healthcare. And of course, healthcare was experiencing progressive deterioration. What are some of these challenges? Inadequate infrastructure. You don't even need to look too far. Just look at our own hospital. I'm not saying this to indict anybody, it's just the reality. This hospital was initially started building in 1982. When we were medical students, we just used to hear that, oh, there's a permanent site somewhere. Most of us didn't know where that permanent site was, because we were trained at the old general hospital, which is now Kwasus. So that time just used to hear, oh, there's one permanent site somewhere. For those that were adventurous, they came and just saw this place, no foundation, and it was abandoned. It was abandoned like that for 30 years before they started building. So when you look at the buildings The thing to always remember is what we say, new wine in old wine skins. Because some of those structures started in 1982, only to be completed 30 years later. So just think about it, right? Lack of modern equipment and technology, overcrowded and outdated facilities, poor maintenance. That's one of the banes of Nigeria. When we have things, we don't maintain them well. When I went to the UK, I saw some buildings. They've had those buildings for 300 years, 400 years. They don't throw away the buildings, they maintain them. Lack of water, power, drug shortages. Virtually every medical equipment is imported. How do we want to progress when we rely on others? Poor health funding. Like I said, Nigeria allocates less than 5% of its budget to health. I'm not even going to talk about what the world recommends. The African Union recommends 15%. This is known as the Abuja Declaration of 1991. Do you know I was shocked to hear this? And do you know where I heard this? I heard this from the keynote speaker of last week of Unilorin at 50. I don't know how many of you were at that talk. Wonderful speaker. The keynote speaker is the original one we call Laiwowe. For those of you who speak Yoruba, you know what Laiwowe means. Do you know he gave his entire talk without looking at anything? If I was just looking at the man, all right? For those of you who are not there, you really missed, but let's leave that alone for another day. It was the one who told us that Abuja Declaration 1991, Africa agreed, not the world, Africa in Abuja, to allocate 15% of its resources to health. In Nigeria, where that declaration was made, the highest we have got is 1/3 of that figure. Most people pay out of pocket. Now, when you are young, you won't know the meaning of paying out of pockets for health. Why do I say so? I say so because when you are young, you are relatively healthy. At most, you have malaria, you have upper respiratory tract infection. So if you buy anti-malarials, you won't appreciate it. But when people have chronic illnesses and they need to pay out of pocket, that's when you will know what it means. There are some elderly people, all of their pension cannot buy their drugs. That's when you begin to understand what we're talking about. NHIS covers very few people. Apart from this, another big challenge, the shortage of health professionals. Just think about anything. Doctors, nurses, pharmacists, laboratory scientists, shortage. It's said that over 50% of Nigerian doctors practice outside Nigeria. I don't know how true that is anymore. Because as you are seated here now, I think I can safely assume that maybe 80% or 90% of you are planning how to leave Nigeria. Alright? So this figure of 50% of Nigerian doctors practice outside Nigeria, I don't know what the exact figure is anymore. Even within Nigeria, remember, that figure is not evenly distributed. I was brought up in northern Nigeria. I was born in Kaduna, as you heard, had primary education and so on. Now, last week, my son was posted to Kebbi to serve. I did not allow him to go. That's the truth of the matter. Alright? So you and I know that many of these people are not willing to practice in northern Nigeria anymore. I was born in northern Nigeria and I loved northern Nigeria. In fact, when we moved to Ilorin in 1980, I didn't want to stay in Ilorin. That's the truth. And I tried my best to persuade my parents to allow me to go to ABU. But they didn't agree because they felt that if I go to ABU, they won't get me back to the south. Maybe they are correct. But now things are different. We have relatives who live in the north and keep telling them, why don't you try and move back home? Nigeria never used to be like that. The issue of rural versus urban. Anytime I see babies from Ofa, I keep telling myself, is it not time to move back to Ofa? Because don't think of healthcare in Kwara just as healthcare in Ilorin. Think of what is happening in other parts of Kwara. Now, the factors that contribute to this shortage, of course, include poor salaries, lack of job satisfaction, and the number one thing, insecurity. The issue of insecurity, I don't think I need to talk about it more because even what I don't know, you know. Now, the question is, what next? What next? The number one thing in this what next has to be political will. No matter what you and I talk about today, and I was glad to hear that the various classes, you have a competition. I will be very willing to read some of your recommendations because don't think you cannot have a good recommendation. Sometimes your recommendations might even be better than what even people like me will think about. But whatever our recommendations, we need political will in order to be able to bring this to pass. I welcome our immediate past team. Professor, you are welcome. So in talking about what next, Nigeria needs to improve the social determinants of health. You know, every time we keep talking about health, we talk a lot about curative health. I think we need to talk more about preventive health. To make people healthier, we shouldn't just stay in the hospital waiting for them to come and think about how we can help them. Environmental sanitation. Like I told you, we had a lot of stories about even the 50s. Then people talk about wole wole. A lot of the things that is going on around us now, where it's going on then? Because there were people who would go around, if your home is not well kept, you'll be fined and so on. So environmental sanitation, access to clean water, access to clean air. You know, there is one thing, though now, well, maybe, everything they say it has its good side, it has its bad side. One of the good side of removal of subsidy from petroleum products that it has done is that it has made many of us less reliant on generators. But one of the things that was really seriously causing environmental pollution were generators. Now, many of us have opted solar way, green energy, which is better for us. Food security, vaccination, family planning. These are things that as a nation we need to take very seriously if we're interested in improving healthcare. Increased government and private sector funding. We keep talking about more should be allocated to healthcare. It's not that I don't want better pay. If you give me more pay, of course I'll be happy. But more needs to be allocated to capital projects. Need to be allocated to equipment. It's not that we're saying people shouldn't get more pay, but we need to always remember these other things. More public-private partnership and investment into engineering and pharmaceuticals. As we are now, virtually everything gets imported. For us to really improve our healthcare, we need to have more investment into engineering and the pharmaceutical sector in Nigeria. Strengthening primary healthcare. Yes, Professor Saka is not here, but Dr. Igwe is here. Those in community medicine, they keep telling us the bedrock of healthcare is primary healthcare. What we are doing in tertiary institutions is important, but that's not the bedrock. So we need more acute centers, particularly in the rural areas. We need to expand more preventive healthcare programs, vaccination, maternity services, including family planning. But the challenge, of course, will always be how to retain workers. That's one of the things I'm waiting for you people to tell me. How we will retain workers. Expanding insurance. More Nigerians, particularly those in the informal sector, need to be on insurance. We need public enlightenment on insurance. Many Nigerians don't understand what insurance is all about. As far back as I think that was 1992, I worked briefly in a private hospital in Lagos. And that private hospital, they used to provide care for a lot of company workers. And you see people who will come in and say, Doctor, I paid so over the last few months. You know, it was removed from my salary as part as health insurance. And since January, I've not been sick. So it means that all the money they removed, I didn't gain anything from it. And then they will tell me that I should prescribe Milo and Lucozade. And I'm like, okay. So that time, I just finished house job and I was waiting for the service. And I'll tell them that, no, there's nothing like that. So the matron of that hospital, she had been working there for maybe 25 years. She was used to the system. She will just tell them, don't worry, when you finish with doctor, don't worry, you come and see me. So that's the way Nigerians think health insurance is. Instead of them to think of it that this money that was removed, I thank God I was not sick. They think that why is my money removed and I'm not sick? So Nigerians need to understand what health insurance is so that there will be money available for those who really need it. Then community insurance, particularly for those in the rural communities. A lot of the insurance that is available now is for government workers or people working in big private companies and so on. So a lot of the very poor people still don't have access to insurance. Now, the multi-million naira question, which I hope you will answer for me, addressing manpower shortages. How can we improve manpower shortages? And I think it's you, the young ones, that might tell us. Okay? I have 2 sons and they are doctors. My big challenge was even in persuading them to do NYSC. And I can assure you, they are not persuaded at all to stay in Nigeria. So if I can't persuade my own children, how do I persuade you? So the truth of it is, those of us left in healthcare in Nigeria now, many of us are getting older. Okay? The younger ones that we are hoping will succeed us, most people are not interested in staying in Nigeria. This is not just about medicine. It's also about nursing. It's also about pharmacists. Everybody virtually in the healthcare sector. The young ones are not interested in staying. We might talk about better remuneration. Maybe better conditions of service, training. But the truth of it is, with the insecurity, if nothing is done about this insecurity, I don't know how well we'll be able to persuade. But like I said, this is one question that I myself am waiting to be educated from you. We need to leverage on technology and telemedicine. So a lot of what is going on all over the world now to improve access to care needs technology. But always remember one thing. You know, anytime I talk to classes of medical students and we talk about telemedicine, I always tell them, remember, there has to be somebody there to do certain things. Okay? Now, if we're talking about a particular procedure which involves the pediatric surgeons, It's possible that Professor Abdurrahman might not have done a particular procedure before here in Ilorin. There might be somebody in United States who is ready to guide him through that procedure. But you know that that person needs Professor Abdurrahman to be here in Ilorin. If Professor Abdurrahman is not here in Ilorin, if you just grab Professor Adesiyun and say, oh yeah, begin to do the procedure, the procedure will not happen. So when we talk about telemedicine, it's not as simple as that. You still need somebody, right? Here in Ilorin, if we use even a basic thing, I've had to guide one of our former interns who was doing youth service somewhere in the east. I guided him through doing an extreme blood transfusion. But you know, he had an idea of what to do. It's just that he didn't have the confidence to do it on his own. But it's not that somebody will just be somewhere in the bush. There's no doctor there, there's no nurse there. You just say you'll be doing telemedicine, and the telemedicine will be doing itself. So let's always remember that bit of it. So in conclusion, way forward. Increase funding, infrastructure development, including roads. Roads are very important to healthcare. So when we think of healthcare, don't just think of it just as a hospital setting. Think about that woman in Kayama who has obstructed labor, who they need to bring to Ilorin, right? Think of that neonate, even in Offa. In every time they bring newborns from Offa, I imagine what the babies and their parents went to get to Ilorin, despite the fact that you say Offa is not far. Think of that person in Patiji. So we need roads. We need manufacture of equipment. We need pharmaceutical agents. We need to expand health insurance. We need to address brain drain. As it is now, I see Nigeria as just training doctors for export. We cannot continue like that. Alright? Even though those of you that are students now, you probably don't mind. You don't mind that we are training you for export. But me, I mind. I mind because I will not continue to be here. Or you think you will just go and you will leave that, oh, don't worry, Professor Adesiyun, Professor Abdurrahman, Professor Durotoye, they are here. They will continue training. No, we will not continue to be here. So we need some people that we're going to hand over to. We need improved technology. So I thank you all very much for your kind attention. And like I said, I don't have all the answers. And I'm very, very willing to hear from you what next we can have for Nigerian healthcare. Thank you.
Good morning, ma. Good morning, everyone. I am Shan Adesiyun from the Total class. I want to thank you for the lecture. So, one of the solutions provided to the healthcare system in Nigeria is expanding health insurance. And when I studied the United States, they actually have a broader health insurance than Nigeria. And some people have said that the health insurance does not solve their problem and it still even adds to their problem. So I want to ask, how then can health insurance help us in Nigeria?
Okay.
That's the question.
Thank you. You can take your seat. Someone will answer all of them together. Give the microphone.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Prof. I'm the medical student and LUMSA Health. My question, thank you for the very inspiring lecture. My question is, how do you think Nigeria can best address the issue of brain drain? Do you believe legislatures make medical doctors or bodies in the country for assessing the issues of healthcare would actually solve brain drain? That's my question.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, ma. Good morning, sir. My name is Provoke. Thank you very much for the lecture, ma. My question is, when you were speaking, you mentioned that the first thing to address any issue is political will. And somehow from the elites and the political class, it seems there is a kind of apathy against anything health related. And considering that fact, the fact that currently
now are currently on strike, and even there has been nothing from the government. If this keeps happening, and majority of the new doctors they find their way over there, get to a and peradventure get to a point that we going to have the older ones they are retiring and the younger ones they are leaving. At what point, what do we do when we get to a point where, to a very little extent, we are close to zero?
Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for the inspiring lecture. So, my question goes thus. From the lecture, we learned that there are a lot of problems in Nigeria. In fact, everything is a problem in Nigeria. So, the question is, if you look at the challenges and the solutions to them, it has to do with our leadership positions. A majority of us who are medical doctors or work in the field don't want to get into those positions to actually change the system. But my question is, what can we do on a personal level, on an individual level, that can actually help us? Okay, I say, what can we do on an individual scale, on a personal level, that will actually improve Nigeria, that will help us?
Thank you very much. Okay, good afternoon, my Prof. Good afternoon, everybody. My question is more of a comment than a question. Then I just want to say that my name is Omotayo O. I am a 600 level medical student here. And I just wanted to say that one thing that has been ringing in my head every time we come, we hear and solve innovation. But if we look at the solutions, these are recurring solutions that have been happening. We hear about spending out of pockets, we hear about catastrophic health spending and all of that. But I think it's a food for thought. I think we have to do what's next, but it's more of a what was than it's what next. Because just like you have said, most of our parents they have time when they were in medical school and they go to the cafeteria and they get food and they get all of this. Meanwhile here, you no water, all of that. So I think we also because it is a Nigerian problem. That's the same way they did African Union and they set it up and it wasn't done. We need to look at what was telemedicine in Nigeria. It's not even just about the personnel that you can direct. There's no network in that there. Talk more of some even deep bullshit. So I think that when we are talking about innovation and how we can help our country, we also need to look back at what probably was working and what was a way forward and then to look at what we can incorporate from the future. So my question is to everybody as we think, as we go home and as we meditate or think about this. When thinking about what's next, let us also think about what was and what can be incorporated into the future for a solution that is tailored to our community. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Oshope Faith from the 300 level class. Thank you, Ma, for the lecture. So my question is related to the budget that you mentioned. You said the African Union all agreed to like give 15% of the budget to healthcare, and that has not been reflected over the years. So I'm concerned, is it that we don't have representation at the forefront where the decision is being made, where the bill is being passed at the National Assembly, and what can be done to bridge that unequal representation? Thank you.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. My name is Olamide Ojoyon. I'm a member of the Good 400 level medical class. Okay, ma'am, thank you for your speech, ma'am. I learned a lot. My question is for young medical professionals or medical students who are interested in making the Nigerian healthcare system work, who would love to make things work, make the Nigerian healthcare system be one such that people don't have to leave the country for survival. You don't have to leave because things are so bad. You leave because maybe you want to go and learn more, then you can come back and impact the country. So my question is, what do you think is the right step to take as medical students who want to graduate as doctors, who are interested in changing Nigerian healthcare system? who are interested in making things work and just making the health system one such that just one such that is way better than what it is currently. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right. Are we okay? Thank you very much for all your questions. I might forget some. My brain is not as sharp as it used to be. So if I forget, just remind me. But I'll try to answer as many as I can remember. The first question was concerning health insurance. And the young man said he studied United States. My first response to you is, if you want to talk about health insurance, United States is not the best country to study at all. So as far as we are concerned, thank God, the epidemiologists, the one me I don't know, they know. United States. United States is the number one cash and carry society. United States is a typically capitalist society. Yes, they are trying to venture into health insurance. But if you really want to study countries where health insurance has really done very well, go to Europe, particularly the Scandinavian countries. All right? Now, your comments that health insurance does not solve all problems, you are not wrong. You are not wrong, but it will solve a substantial bit of problems. Now, why won't health insurance solve all problems? It's because, like anything, if you are into any insurance, whether it's car insurance, life insurance, insurance is supposed to be a business. It's just that when government is the one doing the insurance, then the profit end might become less important. Okay? So what insurance is all about is that if all of us in this room bring 1,000, for example, and we make how much? I don't know how many people are here, but let's say we make 500,000. The insurance is like 90% of us might not need that money, but the 10% that need will get access to money. So out of that 10%, maybe one person needs 10,000, another person needs 20,000, like that. So insurance will help a lot of health problems. The only thing about insurance, always remember, is that because the insurance also does not want to deal totally with the loss, sometimes they will not cover everything. And part of the things they might not cover will be those health challenges that are particularly extremely expensive. Because I've used the example, if 500 people contribute 1,000, that means we have 500,000. Now think if one person has a health challenge that requires 500,000, that means only that person will use up all the money, and the money will not be available for any other person. Okay? But like I said, it will cover many things. All right? So I would say let's start with health insurance first, particularly community insurance. Because there are people, you see, all these things you're talking about, there's people that cannot even afford the cost of anti-malarials. It might be difficult for you to understand that, but let's cover. Now, whatever you and I want to say about retaining health workers or addressing brain drain, you as a person, there's nothing you can do about it. It's a system. It's not a matter of, I will be honest with you. There are days you come, there is no water. You know how you feel. There are days you come, there is no electricity. There are things you want to do, you are not able to do it. So that's why healthcare cannot exist in a vacuum. Healthcare has to exist in that system of things working. You know, in the 1990s, I was a junior resident. We never really used to think about who puts on the generator. You know, yes, we had generators, and there was a way that when electricity goes off, the gen comes on. Okay? Now, you have to know who puts on the generator. Sometimes you need to have that person's phone number, and you'll be phoning him. That's why Uzoma's comment about what was is so important. Because there was a time that electricity was much more stable in Nigeria than now. So what happened? What happened was that there was no planning for the population explosion. When Nigeria was a country of maybe 50 million people, it was easier to meet the needs. Then the Nigerian population now kept expanding and expanding, and then all those basic amenities did not expand. What you said about the university system, we came into the university just as the cafeteria system was exiting. But what was the difference? What happened was that those that experienced it, that time, the number of students were so few. Do you know the number of students in University of Ilorin now? All right. So that time, maybe all the students in the universities in Nigeria, looking at ABU, Ibadan, and so on, maybe they are not even up to the students that are only in University of Ilorin. So those things could only have worked if there was a plan that population is expanding by this amount or this percentage. As such, we need to expand water supply, electricity supply, and so on. So that is what is responsible for this deterioration. It's like people did not plan. It's just like in a home. If there are 4 of you in your house, and then 3 more people join you, and you still want to use those same resources that 4 of you were using, you know that of course it's not going to work. The question on the issue of the African Union, you know, when you were asking, I was just smiling. Because, you know, I asked you how many of you were at the keynote speech of Ilorin at 50. If you were there, you will learn many things. Because even me, I learned things. All right? So sometimes in Nigeria, we make plans. We talk about things. You know, somebody once said, we're experts at meetings. But we need to move beyond meetings. If we have a meeting, we agree on something, and we do not take action, we're not going to move forward. When the African Union had that meeting and made what they call Abuja Declaration, African Union is not going to sit on Nigeria to force Nigeria. It's Nigeria that has to take the steps to go ahead with doing it. So if you don't do it, now you'll be surprised to hear that some African countries that came to Nigeria will go back to their own country. They might not start with 15%. They might have started with 10%, 12%, and now maybe they're at 15%. So Nigeria, we are the ones that have to decide on our own. Nobody is going to decide for us. The issue of population, that's something that is not very popular, particularly in certain parts of Nigeria. I'm not saying we should force people, but the truth of it is, if we don't control our population, it's going to continue to be a problem. Okay, but that's my personal opinion. It's going to continue to be a problem because you have to think about what you have and your population. Okay, there were some other questions. I can't even remember for. Yeah, Mr. President, remind me. I can see that you want to look at your. All right. All right. So it's like many of the questions left are personal. As an individual, you can do little, but together you can do more. As a medical student, what can you do to improve healthcare? I would say the first thing is to get properly trained. That's the one that is directly under your own capacity. Okay? By the time you now get properly trained, what can you do as a person to remain in Nigeria? I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. All I can say is do not be discouraged. All right? In the 90s, I had the opportunity to leave Nigeria, but I wasn't interested in leaving Nigeria. That was the way Nigeria was then. I had some classmates, they left Nigeria. One of them went to Namibia, and I was like, Namibia. All right. But those that went to Namibia, they now moved South Africa, some Australia. So some of the alumni that you know now that are in Australia, they're in US. That wasn't where they went to first. Okay? So as a person, there's very little you can do. But if you have many people of like minds, you can do something. However, political will is very, very important. No matter what you and I think as healthcare practitioners, without government, there isn't too much you can do to change the system. We need government to change the system. The person that asked whether it's the issue of underrepresentation, I don't know. The few doctors that we've had who became politicians, I'm sorry to say, to me, they forgot too quickly that they were doctors. I agree with you that the best way to change something is to be part of that system. And I agree with you that we need healthcare practitioners to go into politics to make some of these changes. But for them to make the changes, we need them not to forget where they are coming from. Because if they forget where they are coming from, then it will be business as usual. Okay? So we need them to remember the challenges they face and to use their new positions to change some of those things. Thank you very much. If I haven't answered your questions, please see me. My time is up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma.
What has been discussed today, even myself at this time, I'm at a crossroad with many things that are happening around us. Purposefully, one felt, oh, I can make a change. I could do this, I could do that. But to be brief and to caution all of you, give your best to your learning and training. Give your best to wherever you find yourself in life. Even if you plan to leave Nigeria to say, I'm going abroad, have that plan that you are going to be part of a change we're looking for. Perhaps you might not be able to do it individually. Come together as groups and let us take off this our over-reliance on government. If we perhaps is a new approach to look at, India has done it, they have turned around. That is why people will say we are going for anything at all. You want to go to India. They had a similar experience in the past, what Nigeria is going through, but they have they were resolute and they turned things around. Many of those that have acquired expertise abroad now came back. In fact, many of the private institutions in India today thrive better than government, and they're the ones pulling on the government establishments to do the correct thing. They're the ones dictating the rules, the regulation, and everything that governs practice there. Nigeria can be good, but please, you can't just
lay by the roadside and say it's not good, it's a failure, it's this. Stop all the lamentation, take action and be your best. Thank you. So you have asked me to present an award to my teacher, and I'm honored to do this, man. You saw me brought a jotter inside when they said there's a lecture, because I would always want to say, there may be something to pick from this and learn. And I can tell you, with the few minutes that I stayed by, I able to put one or two things together. In fact, within me, I want to avoid giving another lecture, because I was already putting strings together to say, okay, I can use this to talk in case I'm asked to discuss something. And it's a pleasure listening to you, man. And I hope the students have learned so much. So this award presented as Inspired ILUMSA 7.0 is an award of recognition presented to Professor Omotayo O Adesiyun in appreciation of your inspiring keynote address at Inspired ILUMSA 7.0 held during the 48th ILUMSA Health Week, and for your exceptional service to medical education. Thank you for inspiring the next generation.
Thank you very much, ILUMSA. We are all ILUMSA.